The first time they saw him, it was a Thursday morning, cold but bright. The kind of early spring day that tricks the trees into thinking it's safe to bloom. Main Street in Millstone was quiet, except for the rattle of the bakery truck unloading crates of muffins and the distant chime of the pharmacy bell. And him. The old man stood near the bench outside the grocery store, a few feet from the automatic doors. Not in the way, never in the way, just waiting. Or maybe not waiting for anything at all. He was wiry thin, shoulders slightly hunched under a fraying olive coat that looked like it hadn't seen a hanger in years. His pants were worn through at the knees, one cuff dragging through the dust, the other tucked loosely into a boot with a missing lace. And beside him, a dog. Big, still, almost regal. A German shepherd with eyes like tarnished bronze and a silence that felt more human than canine. The dog didn't wag or whimper. He just sat, shoulder to shoulder with the man, ears alert, like he'd been trained not to speak unless it mattered. The clerk at the checkout counter made a face when she saw him through the window. "That guy's back again," she muttered. From the cafe next door, two teenagers watched as he adjusted his coat with shaking fingers. One snickered. The other pulled out their phone, trying not to be obvious. No one approached. Not yet. A woman with a designer handbag walked past, holding her breath. A man stepped a little farther out from the door when he exited, muttering something about hygiene. The old man didn't flinch. The dog didn't move. They just stood. Like time itself had slowed for them, or maybe forgotten them altogether. What no one noticed, not yet, was the tag hanging from the dog's collar. A small, scratched oval of metal that caught the sunlight just once as the breeze shifted. Delta 5, Recon Unit, Operation Restless Wind. If that quiet moment meant something to you, type respect in the comments. And for stories that don't shout but still echo, subscribe and stay with us. The tag didn't gleam, it didn't shine, it didn't need to. But it was there. A little arc of metal that, to most, looked like any old military engraving. To others, to the very few who understood, it was a name whispered only in classified debriefings and folded flags. A code that didn't need explaining. And eventually, someone did see it. But not yet. That Thursday morning rolled on like most do in Millstone. The trucks came and went. The cashier cracked her gum. A teenager, pretending to check texts, took a photo of the man and his dog and uploaded it with a caption that said, "Let me get you a cart, General Garbage." It got 23 likes by noon. The old man didn't react. Maybe he didn't notice, or maybe he'd spent enough time in places where silence was survival. He had a brown paper bag crumpled in his coat pocket. You could see the edge of it sticking out like it was folded and unfolded too many times. It held 2 cans of beans, a small box of matches, and a tin of mints, the kind soldiers used to carry when they couldn't brush their teeth for weeks at a time. All paid for the day before. He wasn't asking for anything. He rarely did. He'd come to Millstone 6 months ago, according to the town's version of gossip. First showed up by the train station, then the hardware store, then the bench outside the church. Always with the same dog, always quiet, always alone. The local barber once tried to strike up a conversation, offered a trim. "Don't need it," the old man had said, polite but firm, like the answer had been rehearsed 1,000 times before. And so, folks stopped asking. That is, until Emma Delaney stepped out of her father's pickup that afternoon. Emma was 17, a junior at the high school, varsity softball, stubborn as her grandfather and sharp as a nail. She wasn't popular exactly, but she wasn't invisible either. She saw the man as she crossed the street, her cleats still dusty from morning practice. And she saw the dog. The way it didn't flinch when a horn honked nearby. The way it scanned the sidewalk, slow and measured. The way it waited for its man to move first. Her brother had a dog like that, a service dog. Same coloring, same steel eyes. He never came back from Kabul. She hesitated, 1 foot already on the curb. "Hey," she said, gently, stepping closer. The old man looked up, just once. His eyes were pale blue, rimmed with red, not from tears, but from years. They were the kind of eyes that had seen too much, but still chose to keep looking. Emma didn't smile. She just nodded, respectful. "May I?" She crouched slowly, not toward the man, but toward the dog. And that's when she saw the tag. At first, it didn't register. Then it did. Delta 5. Her brother had written that name in a letter once, said they were the Ghost Squad, never in the photos, never in the news. "If anything ever happens," he wrote, "and you hear that name, say thank you." She stood up straight, eyes a little wider now. "Sir," she said quietly, voice low, "is that real?" The old man tilted his head, and for the first time that day, he smiled, barely, just a flicker at the corner of his mouth. "Real enough," he said. Emma swallowed. She looked around at the people passing, the cars idling, the clerk who had rolled her eyes earlier now busy rearranging a gum rack. And then she turned back. "I'm sorry for how people have been treating you." He looked past her, not unkindly. "Ain't nothing new." Emma stepped back, gave a little salute, not textbook perfect, just something she remembered from her brother's memorial. Then she walked away, slowly, but not before snapping a quiet photo. Not for laughs, not for likes, just so she wouldn't forget. She didn't post it online, not yet. She sent it to her dad. "Hey, you know anyone who served in Delta 5? Man with a shepherd dogs outside Horton's Market, thought you'd want to know." Her dad didn't text back right away, but 20 minutes later, a pickup rolled into the parking lot, slow, steady, and stopped. A man in uniform stepped out. Not dress blues, not a parade show, just a simple VA jacket, gray, zipped halfway up. His name was Sam Delaney, Emma's father. 2 tours, 1 limp, no ceremony. He walked up to the bench. The old man didn't rise, but he nodded, a slow, deliberate motion that said more than words could. Sam nodded back. "Long time since I saw one of those tags," he said, motioning to the dog. "Long time since anyone looked," the old man replied. They didn't shake hands. They didn't need to. Instead, Sam sat down next to him, shoulder to shoulder, just like the dog. 2 men with nothing left to prove. And slowly, the town, or at least a few people in it, began to notice. A shift. A pause. The laughter stopped. The clerk's chewing slowed. One of the teens from earlier deleted the photo, quietly, without being asked. And for the first time in 6 months, the old man didn't look like a stranger anymore. The next day, the bench was empty. Just dew on the wooden slats and a faint imprint where a large dog might have slept through the night. Sam Delaney mentioned it over breakfast. "Didn't catch his name," he said softly to his wife. "Didn't ask." Emma stirred her coffee, quiet. "Will he come back?" Sam shrugged, but not dismissively. "If he needs to. If not." He let the thought trail off, unfinished. Like many things veterans learn to leave unsaid. But the town hadn't forgotten. Not this time. A week passed, then 2. Spring bloomed fully in Millstone. Dogwood trees puffed white along Main Street, and the high school started prepping the field for graduation. And then, one morning, he returned. Same coat, same boots, same silence. But something was different. When the old man stepped onto the sidewalk outside Horton's Market, people made space. Not out of fear, out of respect. Small things changed. The barista brought out a coffee without being asked. A man offered a donut for the dog, then paused. "Is that all right?" The old man nodded once. The dog wagged. Just once. Just enough. That afternoon, Emma waited near the bench. She wasn't alone this time. A couple of her classmates, curious, maybe a little ashamed of their first impressions, stood with her. "Sir?" Emma asked when he looked up. She held something in her hands, a small wooden box. No hinges, just a sliding lid with smooth corners. "My brother made this," she said, before he left. She offered it without ceremony, without speech. The old man opened it. Inside, nestled in a small piece of blue cloth, was a patch. Not military-issued, hand-stitched. A faded softball logo with his brother's initials and the words, "Never loud, always brave." He closed the box gently. No words came, but his eyes softened. "Thank you," he whispered. Emma smiled, not broadly, but like someone had just placed a photo in her hands she didn't know she needed. From across the street, someone else watched. A man named Clay Hartley, who ran the town's historical society and spent most of his time organizing photos of barn raisings and county fairs. He'd served too, Vietnam once upon a time, but never spoke of it. That afternoon, Clay called a meeting, a quiet one. Not on the town calendar, no posters, just word of mouth, veterans calling veterans, neighbors nudging neighbors. 3 days later, a plaque appeared on the wall beside Horton's Market. It wasn't large, didn't need to be. A simple bronze rectangle mounted chest-height just beside the bench. No names, no politics, just one inscription. For those who came home with silence in their step, but service in their bones. Millstone remembers. That weekend, more folks stopped by. Some brought flowers, others brought their kids. And slowly, the space around the bench changed. Someone added a shade umbrella. A local artist painted a small mural behind it, a shepherd looking toward the mountains. The laughter that had once rippled through the market's doorway didn't come back. It was replaced by something else. Reverence. Stillness. That summer, the old man came and went like weather. Never with announcement, never with routine. But when he came, people noticed. They didn't flood him with attention. They gave him space, warmth, nods that spoke of recognition without intrusion. And the dog? Always with him, always watching. One afternoon, months later, Emma was sitting on the bench after her first college interview. She was nervous. Her hands fidgeted with the zipper of her jacket. She didn't expect him to be there, but suddenly he was. He didn't speak, just sat beside her. The dog settled between them. They watched the street for a while. A wind picked up, leaves skittered by. "I don't know if I said it before," she said quietly, "but you helped me understand something." He looked at her, waited. "I thought bravery had to be loud. My brother was quiet too." The old man nodded. "Most of the brave ones are." They sat a while longer. And when she left, she didn't say goodbye. She just reached down, gently touched the dog's collar, and paused at the tag. Worn now, a little more faded, but still clear, still remembered. Fall came gently to Millstone that year. The leaves didn't just fall, they drifted, like stories finding their place. Cafes pulled out their autumn menus, the football team lost more games than they won, and the old church bell rang a little louder on Sundays. And the bench? It remained. Even as the air turned cold and the tourists vanished, the bench stayed occupied. Sometimes by the old man and his dog, sometimes by others. Veterans from surrounding towns started stopping by. They never came in groups. They arrived quietly, sat briefly, and often left without a word. But always with a pause, always with a breath. One day in October, a man in a dark green jacket walked up with a duffel bag. He placed it beside the bench, sat for a few minutes, then rose again. When he left, the bag remained. Inside was a single photograph, black and white, of 4 men in uniform crouched behind a wall of sandbags. The words Delta 5, 1983 were scribbled on the back. The old man never claimed it. But the next time he arrived, he placed the photo gently beneath the collar of his dog's vest, like an offering only the two of them understood. Time in small towns doesn't move quickly, it moves deeply. The market got renovated that winter, new glass doors, a fresh coat of paint, but the owners made sure the bench stayed untouched. The mural behind it was cleaned, and a small spotlight was installed so it could be seen even after dark. And just before the first snowfall, the plaque was updated. A second line was added beneath the first. Dedicated in honor of all who served quietly and were finally heard. That season, the old man came less frequently. His steps were slower, his silences heavier. People noticed, but no one asked. In a town that had once turned away from him, now they turned toward, but with gentleness, with reverence. It was during the first snow of December that he stayed longer than usual, sat through the night. The market closed, the streets emptied, but the bench remained occupied. The dog curled beside him, head resting against his thigh. By morning, the dog was alone, lying still. The market manager was the first to see. She didn't panic. She didn't call anyone right away. Instead, she walked outside, sat on the edge of the bench, and waited. Minutes later, Sam Delaney arrived. Then Clay Hartley. Then Emma, her scarf wrapped too tightly, eyes glassy from the cold. They didn't need words. A quiet call was made. The right people came. No sirens, no commotion. Just a flag, folded, and hands that knew how to carry a story that didn't ask to be told. The dog stayed close through it all. When the time came, Emma stepped forward, knelt, and held out her hand. "Come on, boy," she whispered. "You're not forgotten." The shepherd hesitated, then rose and followed. That spring, a new photo was added to the small collection in the town hall. Not in the fallen soldier section, but in the part labeled Local Legacy. It showed the bench, the dog, and the man sitting with his eyes closed, face turned toward the sun. There was no caption, none needed. But beside the frame was a simple card that read, "He wore rags, but he carried history. We didn't see him at first. Now we never forget." Thanks for walking through this with us. If the story stayed with you, we'd be honored to share more.